Shut up and sit down.
People who don't wash their hands after they go to the bathroom, you're nasty. The Lord is watching.
I want to ride it where I like. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride it where I like.
Say what? You came back for another Dialed podcast with Matt Legrand,
Sir Ian Gibson,
Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Doring? You're the best. We all can use a good Chinese proverb from time to time. So here you go. A man who cannot tolerate small misfortunes can never accomplish great things. Stay strong, my friends.
I want to go to the zoo and tickle a gorilla and then punch it in the face. You gotta cuss yourself out every once in a while. What can I say? You know?
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Doring. I'm here with Lance friggin' Hepler.
Lance friggin' Hepler.
Right back at you.
Right here. Ready for more. Or something.
Or something.
Lance friggin' Hepler.
What?
What's up, dude?
Nothing.
How you been?
I'm surviving. I'm tailing off hard.
Yeah? We'll get into that more later.
Yeah.
To his right, Sir
Yeah.
Ian Gibson.
Bringing you probably more Britishness this week.
That's
I just
true.
came back from the homeland.
You collected some Britishness and
I
you
did.
brought it back home.
I brought it back home.
Thank
Did you get some respect with your newly found knighthood?
That's right,
did
Governor.
Did you tell him?
No.
Did I
Just
tell him
if
what?
you don't believe me, go listen to this
Your name.
podcast.
Podcast.
Yeah.
That's right.
Self-appointed knight of the idiot's realm.
Self-appointed pseudo-knight.
And to his right, Mr. Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look fan-freaking-tastic today.
Thank you.
You look good.
Good.
I wouldn't lie to you.
Excellent.
Unless I was lying to you, in which case I would lie about that.
Well, since you're lying, why don't you talk about your back pedal?
Okay. If I was lying about my back pedal, I'd talk about all the biking and stuff that I did this past week.
And there wasn't any.
I went swimming and I did a lot of running.
Well, that's something.
It's something. It's something. It's something.
You were having trouble with your knee,
My
your
calf.
calf.
I mean, it's always something.
It's always something.
Yeah,
And
my
it
calf
settled a little
was
bit.
bothering me. It's settling a little bit. I did 3 miles and my Achilles was hurting today, which it hasn't. So, getting old sucks.
Yeah, it does.
I need to do some biking. I think I have an electric bike for real coming for a review,
Oh,
which I'm super excited
The
about.
company's sending it to
yeah,
you?
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Which it's just one of those things. Like I just keep thinking about, like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Like I would take the electric bike and do this and that and whatever.
Right.
Because it's not real riding. I just probably lost about 50% of our podcast listeners, but yeah, e-bike coming on tomorrow. I think it's coming tomorrow.
Sweet.
So we'll see how that goes. It may be a piece of junk. I have no idea, but we'll find out and we'll review it. And I'm excited to take it kind of like off road and do some stuff that way.
Going to do some sweet jumps.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Check out my sweet jumps.
It's a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how are things going in the Matt Legrand household with having to be everywhere at one time? Did you survive the trip to Seattle?
So that was so last week was a nightmare. So Ethan had like this, like my oldest kid had like band on for football until whatever, like midnight or because they could stay late or whatever. And then he had to wake up at 2:30 in the morning to go to Seattle for band camp thing. So all the band kids were just exhausted. At the same time, I had a race in Tillamook with my cross country team. And so I was gone for a ridiculous amount of time for that race. I think it was like 13, 14 hours or something like that. Jeez. And it was awesome. It was freaking awesome. I mean, I think everyone had fun, but everyone's exhausted. And there's a lot of work to do as well. Just life's staying busy.
Sweet. Did you go to the football game on Friday?
I did not.
You did not. Did you go there to support your son?
I knew what I was up against the next day.
Playing the sweet jazz tunes?
My wife went, and I was like, I gotta wake up super early and take my 130 kids to Tillamook for 14 hours of. I was like, I'm not going to the baseball game. Yeah,
right on.
I don't know what. I'll catch something at some point, maybe.
All right.
Put me down for maybe.
Done.
Awesome. Mr. Ian Gibson. I mean, sorry. Sir Ian Gibson.
Do you mind?
Gosh, dang it. You just got home.
Yeah, I just got home last night. I was visiting friends of mine in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, which is in the south of
God bless you.
Germany.
I was going to say, bless you. Yeah, that beat me to it.
It was a good time. I actually used to live there in a previous lifetime, so visit some friends and did a bunch of bike riding.
Where in Germany is this?
It's right on the border with Austria. It's in Oberbayern, south of Munich.
Okay. Yep. I've been there.
Yeah. So that was good. Did some riding there. And then with a friend, we drove down into northern Italy to the Dolomites.
Whoa.
We did this event. It wasn't a race, but it was, it's called the Sella Ronde Bike Day. So it's like a big gathering of cyclists. I guess there was thousands and thousands of cyclists down there. They closed the roads to traffic.
Oh.
You get to ride these 4 passes in the Dolomites. Let's see, the Sella Pass, the Passo Pordoi, the Comalongma, I think, and the Gardena Pass. And it's this one area of Italy. It's in the winter, apparently you can do this from sort of ski lift to ski lift. There's a kind of a famous ski circuit there. But twice a year, like I said, they close the roads to cyclists. And there's just thousands and thousands of cyclists there. So it was great fun. The weather was good. Felt good. We did that. Then we
the video you posted on your Strava ride was remarkable. Just how gorgeous it was.
It's incredible.
The Dolomites are gorgeous anyway. But
yeah, I was there 3 years ago, and we rode it in a kind of drizzly, cloudy day, and I didn't see all of that. So yeah, it was just amazing, and just having those roads cleared, closed, and being able to just rail the descents
with the road closed, that'd be great.
It was fun, going down some of those descents. There was me, and I was following a couple of other guys, and you're kind of threading through all these guys,
slower people.
So much fun. Anyway, after that, we drove a little further south and west and hit the area, southwest of there. Did some more riding, but then kind of got rained out. But it was an awesome vacation. Just got back last night.
Southwest of the Dolomites, was that like were you kind of close to the coast?
No, actually, it's Bolzano, Marino, that way. It's actually an area called Südtirol. Okay. German-speaking part of Italy, which was interesting. But yeah, good times. Get my Euro fix for a while.
Did you rent a bike? Did you take your bike? How did you deal with that?
I borrowed my friend's bike.
Oh, dude, even better.
Yeah. So
he just had an extra bike for you to ride.
He had a great, like this Aero, a Trek. What is it? A Monday or I don't know.
Madone.
Yeah. Thing. Disc brakes. The only issue was it was rim brakes on deep dish carbon rims, and they made so much noise.
Yep, they're singing at you.
Oh my god!
It makes you think something's wrong with the brakes, especially if it's wet. They don't work real good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary actually, because you're used to disc brakes that
to go from disc brakes to rim brakes
with
on
a special
carbon
brake pad that doesn't work.
It does. It's scary.
But anyway, the riding's amazing. A lot of vertical feet in short distances. Views were good. What can I say? The roads are just spectacular. Yeah.
Well, the jealousy was brimming on this side of the pond, so it looked awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got to say.
Yep. Raced my bike a couple of times again, like I do, because cyclocross season has started. Sunday was the Hetmere cyclocross race, the second race in the Harvest Cross series.
Mm-hmm. You got your David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff
right.
on. Is that the name of that one?
They should change it to the David Hasselhoff Memorial, except he's not dead yet. But it'd be funny to call it Memorial.
It would be good.
I don't know why they call it Hetmere. I think this was a David Salty thing.
It needs a name upgrade.
It's It's named
Some
after
sort of Baywatch reference.
It's named after like a Belgian cyclocross race,
Right.
because this race has a big sand section that goes on to the beach of Vancouver Lake. So,
How many times did you wipe out?
I crashed once.
Okay, not bad.
only one time, because I completely botched a.
You have to hit the lines through the sand. It's like
No, I didn't crash on the sand.
Oh.
I rode the sand safe every time. I had no trouble with the sand. I botched a barrier. My drop foot came back to haunt me.
okay.
Yeah.
So it just tripped you.
I just didn't get my foot up high enough and thought it was, and just punk and just flattened myself. It was kind of hilarious. And my daughter was taking a video right where it happened, so we got like good coverage of it. It's kind of funny.
Okay.
But-
Hopefully slow motion.
Yes. So it was not good. But I raced the 50 plus field. Had a pretty good start and was sticking with the front group, but just couldn't quite hang with those guys. I think I ended up 7th. So not too terrible. There was like 52 people in our race. So
That's bar points, though, right?
yeah, yes, it is bar points. So
Good man.
did good.
You should be full on bar points. All
I
full.
should be good.
Up to the limit.
I should be okay. There's a 60-year-old who
Yeah.
is knocking on my door, but he didn't do all 7.
You want to explain to the listeners what the bar is?
The bar is the best all-around rider for OBRA, our local racing organization, and it is a complicated point system to try to win the bar. And I'm trying to win the bar for the Masters men. They give awards for like the elite men, the elite women, Masters men, women, Cat 3s, whatnot. But I've never really been close, and this year I'm leading the category. And the way that you win it is you have the more.
You basically score points for every discipline you ride, right? So
Correct.
you have to be
So-
an all-around rider. Yeah.
Yes, and you have if you do more disciplines, you have to place at least in the top 15 of the overall results in order to score enough score a point to be included in the bar competition. So we have 7 disciplines. We have road cycling, gravel cycling, short track racing, mountain bike racing, time trial, cyclocross, and
Criterium.
criterium.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I've been able to do one of all.
You've got them all checked.
I've got them all checked, and I placed in the top 15 in all.
Yeah.
I barely got the criterium points. I placed 13th in my race, so I barely got the crit points. But and then you're ranked. Yeah.
Remind me, who was it who won the Masters bar last year?
I think last year-
some dude.
Some dipstick named Sir Ian Gibson won that race.
Mm-hmm.
And when he won that race, I thought, I can beat Gibson.
You can.
I'm going to go for it next year. So
Okay.
you were the inspiration, Ian. Thank you for the inspiration. Yeah. Plus, you didn't do all the disciplines this year, as many as you
No.
did last year. So
No, I'm way down this year.
anyway, I'm digging in for that. It doesn't really mean anything. Ober really doesn't make a big deal out of it. You get an award and you get your name mentioned at the awards ceremony. But nobody goes to the awards ceremony.
Right.
It's not as big of a deal. There's probably only like 4 people actually looking at this, and it's only the people that are leading the category. They're like, oh, how do I hang on to this?
You do
I may
get
as well.
you get yet another engraved hydro flask.
Oh, you get an engraved Hydro Flask.
Yes.
That's what they gave out last year.
It wouldn't take too much to really lean into that, make it more of a thing. And I would even say, like, do like a podium, do the top 3, and give out awards for all that stuff,
Yeah.
and get people to come on board and give away prizes and actually post about it during the course of the year so people know it exists. You know what happens when you pit people against each other to win cool stuff and get acknowledged for the stuff that you're doing? More people race.
Yes, they dig in.
More people
They have
race.
a team bar as well. Who's winning the team bar?
Down cycling for the 6th year in a row. We're
7th
year in a row. We're leading that. So
Yeah.
yeah. They don't.
Which I feel like it's. I don't want to say anything, but it's just like it feels like no one cares anymore. It's like, well, the teams. It's just like, well, Dial's just going to win this.
Yeah. Right.
It can't. I mean,
We should have a dialed A and a dial B team that go against each other.
That would be great.
Dibs on being on the B team.
not for nothing, but you've got all of these teams, and yes, some are bigger and some are smaller, and sometimes it's like if you've got a big team, it's a lot easier to get all of these points because you have more people out racing. And like if you're a team of like 15 or 20 people, you're not going to contest with a team that's like close to 200 or over 200 people.
Yeah,
right.
That it's just not going to happen. So I mean, I've been talking about this for years and more years.
Yeah.
Like have it broken out. Like have it like above this threshold. This is like your big team, and below this threshold is
what we
this
do
team.
We do this in high school, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like with 4A teams.
Exactly.
For Washington, the big teams.
I mean, maybe for us, for dial, that we just throwing this out, maybe we ought to separate out the junior dial or the cross dial.
I think an A team and a B team that we rival against each other.
Right.
Although, what does that do for team atmosphere?
Yeah,
team spirit?
we need other teams to step up and bring more people onto the teams. But again, going back to my point, what happens if you make this something? What happens if you give it a lot of like, I don't know,
Spotlight.
notoriety, put it under a spotlight, exactly, have awards and have a reason for people to want to be more competitive. If you get these competitive teams that are comprised of competitive athletes that are then competing against each other, and you know that you've got to get either more people on your team or you got to get more people to go out and race in order to get those points, it's good for everybody.
Yes.
The teams are going to thrive. They're going to grow. The race promoters are going to see greater attendance. It's going to be a lot of fun to celebrate that. Why? Why aren't you doing that?
Washington, they used to have the same bar competition, and they discontinued theirs. So I don't.
They just
I
did
mean,
away
as
with
far
it.
as I know, this year was the same way. They just don't run it anymore, which is a shame. I mean,
It is.
but
I mean, USAC does it to
Yeah.
a certain degree.
Yeah.
And they even go as far as to like have competitions like who's got the best kit. I mean, that's even kind of fun too. And they'll put that stuff out there and people, they let the masses vote it on it. They're not doing this internally, but there's so many things that can be done. But I digress. I'll be quiet now.
Yep.
what you been up to, JVD?
Are you done, Lance?
I raced again at Portland Trophy Cup. Did not take second like I did last week. A couple of the guys who did really well the previous week like had mechanicals this week, so it was kind of interesting. But yeah, I ended up 7th in that race too, so go figure.
Is it a series where they're keeping points? And
They do, but they don't count for bar points
no, but just for
because it's a weekday race. So, yeah.
But don't you do you get points for the series, overall series?
It depends. Sometimes they do it, and sometimes they don't
depends on-
include it.
What
It's
was
the same
feeling
with
like that year?
Tuesday PIR.
PIR, right.
Supposedly,
The
the rules said
the
that-
rules say that the series results would be
Yes.
included in the bar points, but
don't.
they haven't.
yeah.
So they don't really keep track of it very well either. Go figure. That's it. Trophy Cup was a blast.
Right on. This past week for me, I had grand plans of all these things I wanted to do. And I ended up waking up not feeling well on it was last weekend. So I just kind of took it super easy. This whole past week, I think I had logged like 7 or 8 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. They were all on the trainer.
Oh,
So, and I mean, that's good because you can really just like make that super efficient and whatnot. And not to mention, I've been crazy busy again. So it's almost been like another, I don't know, recovery week. So that's 3 recovery weeks in the last like month. So my fitness numbers are not looking stellar right now. So I need to get back on track with that. But
wow.
yeah, just too many things going on. A lot of stuff going on. And then, we got a kid who broke her arm in a soccer collision that she got taken out. So been dealing with doctor's appointments and getting her casted up and all that
Your
other fun stuff.
daughter?
Yeah. So they were actually in a scrimmage against a higher level team within their organization. And, one of the girls is kind of renowned for being a little bit of a brute, renowned for getting lots of yellows and red cards. Came at her super hard and took her out. But my daughter, in that moment, was able to actually save a goal via a header. But then this girl just completely steamrolled her, and she went flying and landed on her arm, and she got a little fracture of the radius. So yeah, she's casted up.
Switch to running.
Maybe she has talked about wanting to do that. So
Yeah, it's a good sport.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think she might be doing cross country. They do that for middle school in the spring, correct?
For the girls, they do that in the spring.
Correct.
Yes.
So you'll probably see her out there. So we'll see.
Good.
Anyway, enough for me. Just I need a little break to get back on track with the riding and to get my sanity back and not be working 12-hour days. So good times. Cool. Yeah, let's move on. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we do this guy?
Champ Bailey in sports.
No, let's go Champ Bailey.
Champ Bailey, come
Champ
on in.
Bailey's
Come on
here.
in. He's been waiting out in the foyer.
Yeah, here I am.
Hold on.
Hey,
Take
welcome.
your mother, Dorothy Mantooth, out for a nice seafood dinner
And
and
not
never
call her.
her
I love it.
Champ.
What's up, champ?
Okay, so the only race I really think is worth talking about at this point is the Gravel National Championships happened
It's quiet.
last
This
week.
is the quiet
It
time
is
of
quiet.
year.
Yeah.
Also, like all the transfer talk starts up here soon.
Yes.
Did you guys wrap up with the Vuelta last week?
We
while I
did.
was-
Yep.
Yeah.
We waited for you to.
Did you have thoughts about that? Nobody cares. We're moving on to Gravel National Championships. Gravel. So,
Oh, you did pick the right winner. You called Roglic, so hats
Yeah.
off to
Yeah.
Ian for that.
well done, sir. Ian.
Good call. It's his 4th win, right? Is that correct?
Fourth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fourth time win the
Jeez.
Vuelta, yeah.
Fourth time.
That's impressive.
That's pretty impressive.
Too bad he can't do that at the tour.
He's way up there on
On Grand
amount
Tour.
of Grand Tours winner
Yes.
in that. Yeah.
And he's been close
great.
on some. He's been very close on a couple as
times. Yeah.
Okay.
So good on him.
Anyway,
Gravel National Championships was in Gering, Nebraska, 150 miles through rolling terrain.
why didn't you go? I thought you were going to go.
I was not going to go, no. But because I don't want to do
real,
150
a real
mile
sportscaster
race.
would be there with a microphone
right. I should have
interviewing
been there.
people.
There was kind of a surprise winner. Keegan Swenson, definitely the favorite. He has a teammate that helps him out, Tobin Ortenblad. Tobin Ortenblad made it into the break for the day, so Tobin didn't have to do work in the break, and Keegan didn't have to do work in the chase group. So, but the break was eventually brought back, and it came down to a group of like 8 of just the solid hitters. And Brennan Wirtz attacked with 500 meters to go. He went early and went long and held it and won by 6 seconds.
Sometimes that's a good distance to attack
Yeah.
because if you don't immediately answer it, and then all of a sudden that group that you just attacked starts looking, oh, I'm not going to pull you
They
up. I'm
all
not going to
looked
pull
at
you
each
up.
other.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden he gets that gap and it closes
over.
and you just can't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it ended up being like a 6-up sprint for second place, even though Brennan Wirtz kind of went off the front, and John Borstelman ended up second, and Colby Simmons ended up third. Colby Simmons is the younger brother of Quinn Simmons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Quinn Simmons races for Trek.
Yep.
And Colby races for Visma Lisa Bike. So he's on a pro team, but he ended up third. So solid pedigree there. Keegan ended up 6th off the podium. Just when he didn't have the sprint wrapped up,
Maybe he's
just
not a
didn't
sprinter.
roll with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
The women's race was won by Lauren Stevens. So that's 2 years in a row for Lauren Stevens to win the Gravel National Championships. If you recall, she was the one where we all kind of talked crap about her race at Steamboat, where she had her husband / domestique riding with her because it was not against the rules. The rumor is he carried her bottles and nutrition and also helped pace her for quite a bit of the race, and she ended up winning by quite a margin. It was not against the rules, so
That's the thing.
they
Not
did it.
against the rules.
Not against the rules.
Change the rules.
So she did not have any of that at the Gravel National Championships, and she still won by a minute and a half.
Because they changed the rules.
Yeah.
They did have different rules for this. And since we were talking about like riding people into the gutter on the left side of the road,
Yes.
they also changed the rules on that for this race.
And they had a rolling road closure. They had
Right. Yeah.
on this race for the
That's
elite
cool.
fields. They had rolling road closures, so the highways were closed as they crossed them, and the roads were kind of.
Is this a
closed.
race you'd be interested in checking out ever?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Why? Why
It
not?
doesn't have the
During
same vibe?
cyclocross season.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always like in late September. But I'm turning out to be a better mountain bike racer than a cyclocross racer, so maybe going to do this gravel race in September is not, a terrible idea.
Well, I mean, you're just going to miss one race. It's not
Yeah.
like you're going to miss a whole season.
And the age group results do shorter races. The
We'll
age
go
group races.
next year, me and you.
All right.
What was the distance for the age groupers again?
I want to say it was like 75 miles.
Not too bad. And elevation gain, not too crazy because it's
Not too
in
crazy.
Nebraska.
It's Nebraska. So
Everything
it's
kind of
rolling.
rolls a little bit, but yeah, it's good for the rolliers.
Let me see. The 50 field, they did an even shorter race. It was only like 4 hours. So, yeah, that would be better.
That's
for
your
me.
jam, dude.
I could do okay at that. But when you stack me up against the best gravel racers in the country, yeah, freaking mid-pack for me.
Well, still.
So, it's
But I think it's like the Road Nationals, right? It's broken out into 5-year.
that's correct.
Age
5-year age
categories.
groups.
So-
Yep.
How would Lance do that? Because I mean, you're Champ Bailey. How is Champ Bailey the same age as Lance?
Lance would freaking crush it.
That's right.
There was only 35 racers in the 50 to 54, and the
Wow.
winning time was 4 hours. Yep. So, I don't know any of those guys. Champ out. Let's move on. There's nothing else to talk
Move
about.
on.
Yep.
I got some questions, boys.
Ooh.
Ian Gibson,
Me?
what in the hell is it like riding bikes in Europe versus the United States?
Good question. I wasn't expecting that one.
He only sent the text this morning saying, "Hey, I want to talk about this."
Left side of the road versus right side of the road.
No, well,
Well, you-
in the
not in
UK, in the
Germany.
UK, yeah, but in Germany it's the same. The biggest thing is there are way more people out there on bikes that are non-cyclists. So people are riding bike. People, you see these big cargo bikes. You see people with kids. You see people going grocery shopping
It's their means of transportation.
as a means of transportation. So there's just more bikes around and probably less people in Lycra and
You've lived over there roughly where you were at. You've
Yeah.
been over there many times. You've done a lot of riding over there. You've been here in the United States for what, 30 years?
yeah.
You spent a lot of time in both places, and you know, like the general populations of people, not just cyclists, but the general populations. How would you compare and contrast their overall disposition? Do you think that on the whole over there with the people that are doing more cycling and then they're using cycling as a means of like transportation, do you find that they're maybe a little healthier, a little bit happier, their dispositions are a little bit better, and their attitudes towards cycling in general are a little bit more positive?
Well, yes, and that extends to the whole of their life, really.
Sure.
Europeans put a lot more emphasis on their free time, their vacation time, their health. They're also more environmentally conscious, so they're less likely to get in their vehicles to make a short trip. Of course, another reason for that is the gas is like twice as expensive as it is here, and the roads are crowded.
Right.
But people, the general populace outside of the cycling community are generally healthier people. They have I mean, we could talk about this for hours. You know, their nutrition, the content of their food is better.
You just have
the
to
whole-
start going and looking at like the ingredients
Right.
for the exact same product made here in the United States versus not made, but sold here in the United States, and that same manufacturer based on rules and laws and things of that nature. When they market that over in Europe, you look at the two things side by side, and the ingredient list is sometimes 3, 4, 5x longer in the United States than it is over in Europe.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into our food here that's
Yeah.
banned in the
For instance, like
in Europe.
you can't even buy Cheez-Its over there, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've heard that before.
How
that
do you live like that? How do you
Not
live
that
without your
I'm never
Cheez-Its?
going back.
Never.
but
I mean, I don't. You know, the German diet isn't super healthy either. They eat a lot of, stereotypically, they eat a lot of sausage and a lot of meat and
it's not to say that that's necessarily unhealthy. I mean,
No.
there's a lot of pundits that will say the contrary to that, having the right kinds of meats in your diet and
and
not
it's
having
all-
them cured and like with the hormones and all that other stuff.
And
but-
you don't have to say, oh, this is grass fed, this is organic, this, because that goes without saying. They don't have these massive, beef cattle, this
yeah.
mass production of meat that we
Yeah.
have here. Anyway, that's going off on a tangent, kind of, because that goes without saying. Overall, they have more time off, better health care, and they look after themselves better, and they put more value on free time,
Yeah.
or free time away from work.
And-
That's for sure all over Europe.
Yeah. What's really unfortunate is how a lot of the things that you just said, there are going to be people that are going to listen to that and they're going to think of a certain political spectrum or certain political leaning that people like. Those things should not be politically polarized. These should be like common denominators for everybody that we should strive towards. Like, why are we taking these and making it like a left versus a right thing? Like, that's just idiotic. I mean, the environment. Why is that like one side seems like they don't care and the other side does seem like they care? We should care about that like universally. And
You could say that one side denies it's even an issue.
Yeah.
The environment. So Anyway, yeah, culturally things are different there. The riding experience, I don't know. The roads are a lot more crowded. There's the traffic is heavier. A lot of the roads don't have a good shoulder that we have here. I will say, I think the drivers. I mean, you get assholes over there too. You get close calls, but I think overall, because the driving is more precise, the roads are narrow, there's more traffic, people are actually engaged behind the wheel. You're not in so much danger of a distracted driver, somebody texting, somebody not looking what they're doing.
The same over there with respect to being on your cell phone?
Right.
Are they like no texting, no talking? You have to be Bluetooth or hands-free or whatnot?
Yeah, you'll get a big fine if you get caught doing that. The cars, the vehicles have to be tested every couple of years. You don't see these clapped out, broken down, vehicles on the road. The roads themselves are better. Like this road surface is amazing. You don't ever in Germany, at least in that part of Germany, you don't see chip seal roads. You don't have. It's just very fine, sort of dense material they build the roads out of, and it rolls super smooth. It's just a joy to ride on.
Do you think the roads last longer over there too? Because the way they produce
them?
that's
maybe that's exclusive to that area because it's very alpine and they have cold winters, warm summers. Roads are subject to a lot of wear and tear, so they do build them to last.
Sure.
And
Did you feel safer riding on those roads, or was it about the same?
Yeah, like I said, I think the drivers are more engaged. They're less likely to hit you through inattention, but on the other hand, there's more of them. The traffic is denser. We rode up this big climb in Italy a few days ago, and we kept going through these tunnels, right? And it's so super sketchy because they come by you and you don't get a lot of room.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. The roads here are. Like I said, we have these shoulders. Like over here, I won't ride on these rural roads unless there's kind of a separate.
Unless there's a place to ride.
Unless there's a place to ride.
Yeah. Right.
Do people use a lot of the same equipment over there? Like, are you seeing people using the Garmin Vario radar, for instance?
Oh, actually, no, I didn't see that. I didn't I was on that Sella Ronde ride, and there was, like I said, there must have been 4,000 or 5,000 cyclists. But
sure.
I didn't notice people with the rear lights and stuff. There was a big mixture. The one thing, about 50% of the riders on that ride were on e-bikes. It's massive over there.
Oh.
Like, I'm going up this climb literally at 300 watts, and I'm being passed by these guys on big, massive mountain bikes, and they're all on these e-bikes that are giving them 500 watts.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I would get in behind those guys, get in behind these
That a motivation.
people. Yeah. Just have them pace me for a while, and then but it's the same. You have the serious cyclists, you have the same kind of the high end bikes are what you'd see here, but there's a lot more general low end bikes, lots of e-bikes. Lots of sort of older steel bikes with the, upturned handlebars with bar ends on and padded seats and panniers and,
Is Strava as prevalent over there?
It is, yeah,
Okay.
amongst the cyclists.
Yeah. Did you get any, trophies, any crowns, anything like that? No? There's too many people over there doing that kind of stuff?
Too crowded where you were, maybe.
A lot of those segments. So if you look at the those segments, particularly in Val Gardena on that Sella tour, there's sort of 10,000.
Yeah, but you were probably top 10 though.
Top 10%.
Right in there, it's just all Grand Tour riders, and then you're right in the mix in there somewhere. Yep. Good work.
What's your biggest takeaway?
I want to go back.
You want to go back, huh?
Yeah.
Ride more.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway, I don't know. I mean, having been there, I look back at the riding in Oregon and Washington here where we live, and you think, well, it's pretty darn good, actually.
Yeah.
where if you live or stay there in the Alps, most of the time there's only 2, maybe 3 ways out of town. So you can see how the road riding at least gets kind of repetitive. There's not so many routes, not so many possibilities. But then everything's so close together. Like you can go down to the Dolomites, you can go over to Switzerland, all this stuff is only a couple of hours away.
Yeah.
So
how is the gravel scene over there? Is it growing as quickly?
Apparently, yeah. There's a lot of, especially in these ski areas, there's a lot of fire roads, like
Sure.
service roads up into the ski areas and stuff that are just awesome, built for gravel bikes. And that's what, back when I lived there in the 90s and the 80s, that was our mountain biking, was riding these fire roads. And who knew back then that we would be so-called gravel riders, right? Yeah. Anyway.
You guys have any more questions for Ian about the differences?
It seems like I've only ridden in Europe a couple times. Once with Ian in where were we?
Tenerife, yeah.
And then I've ridden around Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I found that the cafe stops were significantly better. In Europe, it was just the food was cheaper. It was better quality. I don't know. It's so much better than stopping at the 7-Eleven or a
That's true.
gas station.
Yeah, that's another good point. You don't have to stuff your pockets full of gels and sandwiches and whatnot. If you're going on an extended ride, you're like, oh, I'll just go a couple of hours and stop for a coffee and a pastry.
Yeah.
They're everywhere and pretty cheap, pretty reasonable. Yeah. Some of the cycling infrastructure, that depends where you're at. Not everywhere is like the Netherlands. Like Amsterdam, it's hit and miss, just like it is here in the States. So.
Well, I did like a 50-mile loop outside of town, and there was still the cycling route was still like phenomenal. It was still very well
Holland
built.
is very special that way.
Different.
Yeah. So
cool.
Anyway.
Loved it.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, that's something I have yet to do. I need to get over there.
Yeah. Yeah, do it, mate. It's
pretty freaking awesome if we could somehow do a
training camp
over there.
2025.
Yeah, there you go. Just out of curiosity, what is the cost to get over there for your typical person? Now, we're not all as fortunate as Sir Ian Gibson, who has retired from the airline industry and gets what for life? Do you get to fly for free, kind of?
Not free.
Standby.
It cost me $80 to get there. So.
Oh, geez.
$80. How dare they?
And it was more like 150 coming back. So.
Oh no!
What?
Oh, jeez.
What are they? Do they think you're made of money? Screw those guys.
I mean, costs can add up quickly, for sure. The airfare is probably the major cost. So I don't know what the current airfares are, but I feel like the hotels there, the accommodation, you generally get better value, for your dollar.
Sure.
You're still looking for a decent hotel room, $100 to $150, but it includes a really good breakfast. Getting around, there's a lot of public transportation. I found that groceries were cheaper, eating out was cheaper, drinking beer was cheaper.
On the whole, for just like the general pop of people that are flying and they don't have your perks and whatnot, how much is we'll just say a coach ticket?
Good question. It varies a lot.
Yeah.
I flew back with Iceland Air, actually. So I went Munich to Reykjavik and then from there to Portland. I think you could have bought that ticket for somewhere around $600 or something.
Okay. So round trip.
One way.
Yeah, round trip, you're what, 12 to 15?
12 to 15 probably,
That's not
depending on
terrible.
what time of the year you go.
Sure.
And
then you're probably looking, if you're going to go over there for a week, probably another $1,500 in lodging fees, and then you've got your food, and you've got to rent a bike, and all of those fun things. I mean, you're probably per person $3,000 to $4,000 if you're going to try and do it on the skinny
for a week.
Yeah.
You could probably do it less.
A little bit less.
A little less than that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you could do it less than that.
All right.
Bike rental. What do we pay in Tenerife? It's only like $40 a day. Something like that.
We were there. We rode 6 days. I want to say I paid like $220 for the 6 days.
Worth it not to travel with your bike?
Well, in Tenerife, where I rented the same bike, practically I would have
brought,
Really?
and it was $220. That was way easier than traveling.
because you're going to
with a
pay
bike.
about $75 just to fly your bike, depending upon the airline you're going with, of course. But like $150 plus, you got to tote the damn thing around, and you got to keep your fingers crossed that it actually arrives and makes it home.
There was no hassle.
For me, it wasn't worth it because I flew into the UK first, and I would have had to put it on the train, and
it's just too much to take along with you.
too much.
Yeah.
So if you can find a good cheap place to rent bikes, then it's definitely worth sorting that out when you get there and not taking your bike with you, I think.
All right, well, that's good to know. Little FOMO here. Got to
No kidding.
try and do something like that. Podcast live from.
Well, me and Ian might go back somewhere in January. So
Same old. You think same old, same old?
that's invite only. Jake, you're not on the list.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. All right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Guess what, guys?
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Guess what's coming up?
What?
Winter is coming.
Oh.
Son of a biscuit eater is almost here.
It feels like there's like a little nip in the air, like in the mornings. I don't know if you guys have been getting up and getting outside, but it's like felt cooler to me.
Yeah,
It's usually
autumn
really cooler.
equinox is next week, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's the end
I'm
of-
wearing a flannel shirt today.
Oh, by golly.
When I take the dogs out to go to the bathroom at 4:00 in the morning, that's a little bite in there. So good times. With that said, the winter time is kind of a transitional stuff, and it feels like all of our rides just about fell off the calendar, and like there's like this little bit of a lull, but you kind of have to kick it back into gear. And there's a lot of stuff that you need to consider for the winter. There's do's, there's don'ts, there's prep and execution. There's all these things. So we're going to do a little series on winter prep. So this week we're going to start with the do's, the things that you want to do going into the winter or just ahead of the winter, because it's just about here. For most of us that live above a certain longitudinal line, it's longitudinal, right? Yeah, and latitude would be the north and south. Anyway, you have
latitude, I think.
Latitude, yeah. I don't know why I'm getting this right. I've been up too long. Anyhow, the weather will set in. Like when I used to live in Southern California, we had summer and we had summer light, so you really didn't have to think about any of the stuff. But where we live, we've got the elements, we've got things to take into consideration with our bike and our clothing and our gear and how we go about doing our training and our prep and all that other fun stuff. So I want to jump into the do's. We'll do the don'ts next week, and the week after that, we'll come back and we'll wrap things up with our prep and execution. For the do's, what are you doing to get ready as you step foot into the summer, the winter, fall, autumn season?
Well, one of the things I did yesterday, stepping into the fall season, I reactivated my Zwift membership.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was looking back on my history. I haven't ridden on Zwift since March 27th. It's been almost 6 months since I've ridden on Zwift. So.
Did you ride on the trainer at all ever and just have it not get?
Nope.
So 100% of your rides have been outside?
100% outside.
Good job, dude.
Yeah. So it just kind of was committed to making that happen. But yesterday I just felt like, I'm going to get on a stupid trainer. And they've made some good updates. So it was not terrible. So
right on.
That's one of the things I do.
Matt, do you have any do's?
I think that this is a good time of year to, if you are going to ride outside, there's a lot of things that you can do with your bike. In particular, I'm thinking of could be a good time to start thinking about putting on fenders. We have a lot of rain in this area in the wintertime. It might be, I think it's too early to put fenders on, in my opinion. I think that we can go another, I don't know. We've had a couple blocks of rain where it's been some pretty heavy rain in the past week. So maybe it's time, and I'm just...
To your point, it's a good time to either get fenders if you don't already have them, and it's a good time to make sure that they're properly fit for your bike, so that in a lot of cases there's ones that you can just strap on there and you're ready to rock and roll. So just make sure that they're set up so that when it is time to ride, you're not having to fuss with them for an hour or two just to get them just right, and have them not rubbing on stuff. Just have it prepped and ready to go. Yeah, that's a good do.
It's not a big deal to ride with fenders on if it's weather's okay out there. I mean, you might not want to, but I don't know. I think it's
for this time of the year.
We're getting there at least.
Yeah.
We
Some
might
people
not be
just
there.
put them on this time of the year and they just stay on for the rest of the.
I mean, especially if you're out in a group ride, it's kind of a dick move not to have fenders on. If you're in any kind of
rain conditions
and you're riding with a group and there's people wanting to ride.
In
the
fact,
marine.
there's a group that rides around here, and they're like, if you don't have a buddy flap, get that. You're in the back.
Just ride in the back.
Buddy flap being like a flap that hangs off the fender towards the ground to really keep the water from like coming
Spraying
up
up
on the guy
behind
behind you.
Yeah. Plus, you'll thank yourself too, because that spray, not only is it hitting people in the face, it's coming up and hitting you in the butt and in your back, and it gets you all muddy and sloppy wet. And it's just kind of nice to not have that on there for the back. And then even on the front, like a lot of that spray comes off, hits you right in your feet, and then your feet are soaking wet. Then they get cold and sloppy. And just do your best to keep that off you, because if you can make your bike like set up for the winter and make riding more enjoyable, you're going to want to ride outside more, and the weather doesn't become quite as much of an issue. So to springboard off of that, there's an old saying, and if you live up here, you've probably heard it a million times. There's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad clothing or gear choices. And if you have the right gear, it makes riding all that more enjoyable.
If you can keep your feet warm and dry and your hands warm and dry, that's half the issue for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Booties.
And your core too, I think, is another thing. If your core gets cold, then you're screwed. You start going around. We'll get into that story, but yeah, get the appropriate gear to make your ride experience much more enjoyable.
Last year, I upgraded. Instead of buying new booties, I bought new boots.
Yeah.
So I bought road boots, waterproof road cycling boots, and waterproof mountain bike / gravel boots. And dude, those were worth every dollar that I spent on them. So my feet stayed much warmer and drier through the whole winter season.
Did they get hot?
Yeah, occasionally they got hot where I
because you know how
the wrong shoes.
Yeah, it'll be like morning and it's cold and rainy and gross, and then bam, sun comes out and you're like,
oh, it's
I've never been mad at myself for being a little too hot, but I've definitely been mad at myself plenty of times for being too cold.
Yeah.
So it's better to err on the side, and it's always easier to cool down than it is to warm up.
Yeah.
So what else you guys got?
As far as going back to buddy flap goes, you don't have to like buy those. Have you cut a water bottle in half?
Yes.
That's a little hack for you. Hacker bodge. I don't know
and
which.
you can attach it to the end of your fender, but it only works with fenders that dip low.
Right.
Like there are these other really easy clip-on fenders that just attach to the seat post.
Yes.
That don't
I
aren't
always
good
feel
for
like
your
they're
buddy.
Ass saver.
Yes.
Is that what we would call those?
They're good for your own backside.
They're good
not
for you.
Good for your buddy.
Better than nothing. But.
You know what? I kind of feel like those are. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like those are heavily used in like race scenarios where like screw the guy behind me. Like I just want to keep a little rain off my ass, you know. And those are super lightweight.
Or
A lot of times they're just
stop people from sucking your wheel.
That's right.
a lot of times those are just basically like a piece of plastic. I've seen races like give those things away, or little organizations that give those things away.
Well, there's other ones that are longer.
Yeah, I'm
that
sure there's
actually
better
attach
ones.
to the seat post and don't just clip into the rails on your seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a type that clips into the rails on your seat that just like slides in there.
Yes.
And then there's
That's
one
the
that
ass saver, right?
That's the ass saver.
And then the ones
there's
that clip on, I think I've got
post.
both of these things, right? But the ones that kind of it just like sticks out like a long arm on the from the seat post,
and so it covers a little bit more, but it doesn't help your buddy.
Yeah.
So thinking about the physical side, the sort of training side of where you should be at this time of the year, transitioning into the winter. I mean, I guess this these thoughts only pertain to people like ourselves that are probably thinking about racing. Let's say here in the Pacific Northwest, the race season pretty much kicks off in March. April. And the weather's
mostly.
still kind of shitty at that time.
Yeah.
So you should not be spending all of your time on the trainer. You really need to still
outside.
get out and maybe just.
How often do you think people should be out there? Do you think they should just try and make it out once a week on like let's say we're getting towards right now it definitely feels like not winter time, right? But like winter time, do you think people can just like suck it up for once a week and get out in the rain and
I guess
deal with crappy?
well, all of this pertains to here, Pacific Northwest, where our winters are mild, generally mild and very wet. You know, maybe we have a week or two where it's the snow on the ground, and then I would say don't go out. It's dangerous. You're going to screw yourself up. But you should get out every now and again in poor conditions. You know, just kind of get that toughness. You know that. What is it? Rule number 5.
Right. Not for nothing. It's good to have some experience doing that, because when you do, if you're racing, when you do get to the springtime, They don't cancel a race because it's raining. They don't cancel a race because the wind's blowing.
And you're at an advantage if you can go out there and you're used to that stuff. You're not afraid to be out in the rain and on the wet roads. That definitely counts. But everybody else is just, this is too much suffering for me.
Yeah,
you're hard, right? You've done it. So, but there's a time and a place. I mean, I would say get out if you can a couple of times a week, and then do your intervals on the trainer.
Yeah.
What I see is that the trainer heroes that just ride on the trainer all winter long, you lose your bike handling skills.
Yeah.
They like tail off. You can tell the guys that haven't been in a group ride when you're riding with them in February, they haven't been on a group ride in like 4
5,
months,
6 months, yeah.
Because you're like, they're sketchy or they're the ones that crash. Just because you lose some of those intuitions. Yeah.
Also, like if you're taking this stuff seriously and you do intend to race early next season or whenever it kicks off, you think of in terms of training, we have this idea of periodization, right?
Yes.
So your mesocycle should consist of a transition period and then a sort of a base period. So transition is basically the end of one training cycle and the beginning of another, and you really should take some time off the bike. I would say, you've been working hard. It's all you've been doing for the past few months. You've achieved or not achieved your goals, and it's time to just step away and just, even if it's just 1 week, I would say do something else. Eliminate this season from next season. So you start the year, or you start your training cycle with a fresh mind, fresh legs, fresh motivation.
Sure.
So take a week off, take
Active
2 weeks
rest.
off.
Yep.
And then you transition into your base period.
Yeah, and it's not even bad if you're going to go longer than that. Maybe you don't want to completely get off the bike just because you absolutely love it, but don't be training 6 days a week. Just go ride for fun a couple days a week and mix that up. Go try some other things. Go for a hike. Go whatever, whatever it is that makes you happy. Go do that for a bit and then come back to it.
Yeah, I would say, do something else though. I mean, I think the idea of sort of just riding through and continuing to bash out the miles just because you've got an annual mileage goal that you want to achieve. And so you just keep on riding no matter what, even if you're completely fed up of it. And you kind of get into these, what I call junk miles, where it's really doesn't have any training effect.
Yeah.
It's not really improving you at all. It's just kind of grinding you down.
I totally agree with you. And it doesn't necessarily, what I'm saying, it doesn't necessarily say that, you got to go out there and go put in the big, long, arduous rides. Like for me, and Matt will probably attest to this too, sometimes it's just fun to get on the bike and go explore, don't ride at any kind of a pace, stop, take something to eat with you, take a camera, go take some pictures of some stuff, just go do something cycling related that's not about cycling. It's more about something else, and that's just the vehicle to get you where you're going. So.
No, absolutely. I mean, this trip to Germany and Italy I just did was not... My training is done. The race season's done. I just went out and had fun. So, for sure.
All right. A couple things that I want to throw out there too. When you transition from like glorious summer riding into the fall, and even the fall is still beautiful. And there's a lot of people around here that still want to keep riding their nice or their A-bike or the race bike, whatever you want to call it, but they're just going to like not go out on the rainy days, and maybe they'll ride on the trainer. But there is a point in time where it's like, all right, most of the days around here are going to be kind of rainy-ish. You want to be ready for those, and you want to kind of winterize your bike. And we've talked about this before in the past, but it's just a good subtle reminder. Like this is a good time of year to take your good race bike and either, maybe shelve it and put it away for a bit and only save it for the nice days when it's not going to be wet out at all. But if that's your only bike, you might want to consider doing a few things, like doing like a full teardown and doing a full cleaning and getting it completely rid of everything, and then make sure that you add in some new, maybe thicker greases in the bearing areas to protect it from the rains. You don't want things to, like an expensive bottom bracket these days is, $250. And if you're letting all kinds of grit and grime get in there, and it's not protected with a grease that can kind of keep that out, that kind of sucks, because then you're gonna have to replace that come springtime. Well, if you do the proper prep work ahead of time, you can make sure that thing is going to be protected. It's maybe not going to be quite as fast as some of these less viscous greases, or even being able to get away with not really having much grease on there at all. But to protect, that's not a bad thing. And then another thing is this is actually a good time of year to maybe put on a little bit bigger tire. That little bit bigger tire is going to give you the ability to ride at a tiny or smaller, lower tire pressure. There's always crap on the road this time of the year.
Yeah.
When the rain starts coming out, all this stuff kind of falls out there, and then you're starting to deal with more, flats and things of that nature. So if you're running with a little bit bigger tire, you can run at a lower tire pressure, which is going to keep you protected from a lot of that stuff. It also creates a bigger patch of area, contact area, that's going to help keep a little bit more traction on the road for when it is wet, so that if you're going around a corner, you're not going to necessarily lose it, because that coefficient of static friction doesn't get out of whack and put you on the tarmac. So,
I think that's a lot of times when the weather's really bad. That's my main block to going out, is not so much getting cold and wet myself, but the wear and tear it puts on my bike, and the fact that I gotta clean it when I get back. Which
if you've got a rain bike, that's like the most ideal thing. Get that prepped for the winter too, but like you don't really care about it as much. I mean, you still care about it. You don't want to like trash it, but you're not going to be mad at just coming home and like, oh, this thing's completely just covered in everything. Just get a hose out, spray it off, and then your air compressor, hit the bearings, and then just put it away. It takes you a few minutes. But if it's your race bike, that's an expensive bike that we've talked about, can be north of $10,000. You don't want to abuse that stuff. And drivetrains and things like wheels, those get destroyed and that kind of stuff. So maybe consider build up a rain bike. Maybe that's something you should be doing right now too. But get your bike prepped and ready to go. Get the right lubes and solvents and cleaners and all that other stuff to keep that thing maintained. Is that what you do, Lance?
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Or do you go and just sell off your rain bike?
I just sell off my rain bike.
All racing
just
all
swap.
the time for you.
What else you guys got? You got anything else? I've got a few more, but if you guys got some,
Jake, let's hear what you got.
No, I got one.
Okay.
So, Ian, how do you know when you should be moving to, a different period in your training? Like, should you go to base, or when you should take your week off? What's the best? How do you know that?
It's you want to look at your annual training plan.
How do you get an annual training plan?
Well, so the first thing is you want to identify your goals. Like, why are you training? What is your motivation here? If it's like a lot of us, it's a races, then which of those races are the most important? So that's step one, is you slap those on your calendar and say, hey,
this is important.
May 10th is the most important race of the year. That happens to be the Barton Park Road Race next year, which I recommend everybody does. So once you put Barton Park on the calendar, then the object is to kind of work back from there. So you're going to have periods of building in your training, and before that, a base period.
Well, how do you know when to build or when to not build, or what workouts to do? Do you just
it's magic.
Do you just make those up out of the air on your own, or do you hire somebody to help you put that all together?
Oh, absolutely, no question. You should hire a coach.
Oh, you should hire a coach.
Yeah, coach. Yeah.
Nice setup, Lance.
I'm so confused.
Well, yes, you can do it on your own. The thing about training is you've only, if you're amateur athletes like ourselves, we got a family. A lot of people have to go to work.
Yeah.
Right. There's other things in the way. So why go out if your goal is to race hard, train hard, be competitive, or even if your goal is just to become generally fitter and faster? Why waste time putting in miles that have no value?
Yeah.
In terms of getting you towards your goals. In other words, why put in those junk miles? You want to make every training session count for something. So having a coach is probably the most efficient way of organizing that, so that the training you do is productive.
That makes sense.
Is getting you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's kind of hit and miss. And then the other approach is to, buy a training plan, have some sort of AI-driven training plan. That works as well. But you pay your money and you take your choices. Those are not tailored specifically to you. They are.
As a coach, obviously, you know the value of having a human being working with you, and that's fantastic. That's should be the pinnacle, but not everybody can afford that. The next tier down would be buying a training program like you just suggested. if somebody were to go that direction, is there a platform that you would recommend people look into? Is it going to be Training Peaks? Is it going to be Trainer Road? Is it something else?
I think I've never done that. I worked with a coach.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I just rode my bike, and then I worked with a coach for a few years, and then I do my own training plans now. But Lance, you've worked with a couple of training plans.
I've
right?
done 2 different types of training plans. I've done Trainer Road for a number of years, and it is now AI driven as far as how you do the workouts or set up your race calendar. This last year, I switched to FastCat. It's actually called Coach Cat now. It's Frank Overton's program, and it's AI driven as well. And I bought an annual plan with them where I could use whatever workouts and whatever training that I could with Coach Cat. I really quite enjoyed it. My problem is not having a specific person to modify my plan for me made it not as good as if I had hired Ian to be my coach.
So do you think money is better spent working with a coach as opposed to doing one of these AI-driven programs?
I think money is better spent if you hire a coach.
But there's a lot of difference in the money you spend. I mean, okay, so it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not super expensive to hire a coach.
It's what, about
I
$200?
charge $195.
So we'll call it 200. So let's say that you're getting coached for 6 months. You're looking at $1,200. What's that same time period going to cost you to work with one of these other platforms?
A fraction of that, right?
I think that Coach Cat, you can, for $800, you can get like an 8-month plan. So it's a route about $100 a month.
So a couple extra months, and that's
the level that I'm doing with them. I could do a different level where I just pick and choose a couple things, and it's like less than $20 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think even with the AI though, it doesn't always adapt specifically to your needs. Sometimes it gives a good approximation if you put in the right data and say, I want to be good criterium racer, or I want to be a good gravel racer, then it adapts the plans, and then it'll give you some kind of generic canned encouragement or reprimand you or whatever, but there's no substitute. I think the reason I did well with a coach, and one of the reasons my clients do well, is they always feel like they've got somebody, an actual person to answer to kind of hold them accountable.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest benefits of coaching in general is the accountability bit. So,
I'm only accountable to myself.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things I did is I've already raced 40 times this year. That's way too freaking much. And a coach would tell me that, you know, and and so, and that's one of the reasons why it's been difficult for me to take somebody's plan and follow it to a T, because I might decide to race on a weekend where I was not supposed to, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm doing it right. I just did it differently for me. So
I think, I mean, a lot of it's worked for you though. You have the time to dedicate to it, but you also have the discipline and the drive to want to do well.
I am accountable, to myself.
Matt, when was the last time you were coached? Have you ever been coached?
Gosh, I haven't been coached in a long time. That's a really good question.
Something you'd consider?
No. Because so I've had a lot of offers to be coached. I had there's some video stuff. I had some famous Training Peak coaches that were coaching me for a little bit while we were basically looking at cycling performance and stuff like that through Training Peaks onto the Apple Watch and stuff like that. And so, we had kind of top of the line coaches with that. And then there's some other coaching stuff that I'll probably do kind of the same thing coming up through Training Peaks, but it's going to be temporary and not taken too seriously.
Yeah.
Whereas if I paid for a coach, right, where I'm forking over my own money, and it's a lot of money to pay for a coach. I briefly played around with the idea of kind of having some pro triathletes coach me and things like that. But I do feel like when I write my own plans, I feel like I do okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way.
I've had really good success with that.
I do think that there's something to be said about the accountability component that
Yes.
they've talked about. If you've got somebody that's looking over your shoulder and kind of like saying, hey, great job, this is really going to do well for taking you in this direction, or just like, hey, what the hell are you doing over here? Get back on course. So there is something to be said about that, but
Right.
I've got pretty good self-discipline when I've got the time, I've got the discipline to see it through.
Yeah.
Then you have to also, you also have a degree in what, kinesiology?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can write your own training plan with confidence. You're not going to be wasting your own time.
Correct.
Whereas a lot of people, I watched some YouTube on it and I've studied and stuff and I can write a training plan. But really, I mean, the temptation for almost everybody is to overtrain and not know when you need to rest, for example. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
And, so I mean, if you've got the experience and the know-how and the knowledge, and the discipline, for sure.
I really subscribe to like keeping it more simple. It doesn't need to be this big, giant, elaborate plan with all these crazy things that you're throwing in there. Like if you're on a training program where they've thrown everything in the kitchen sink at you, sometimes that's a bit too much. I'm more of like steak and potatoes. That works really well for me. Can I make that a little bit better? Maybe. But for all intents and purposes, the more simplistic stuff that's very regimented and it's repeatable and it's something I can do every week and I can build off of, that does really well for me. But the thing that I lack is the fact that I don't have somebody in there telling me like, hey, change this up, or hey, maybe you need to take a little bit of a break, or based on my experience, like you've done really well, but this next week needs to look like this. I mean, sometimes it would be nice to get a little bit of
You
that
almost
input.
need like a consultant, like not necessarily a full-time coach, just to look. Because I don't, the way I train is I think similar to you, where we like you try to maximize the fun, and maybe Lance does this too a lot, where it's like, okay, Tuesday night gravel ride, gonna do that. Like Thursday night, flogging. Like so, a coach, if you were to get some coach from it doesn't necessarily apply exactly to this group, because you could have Ian as your coach and he would be like, he could pencil that stuff in and understand those rides. Whereas if you were to get a coach online or something like that, they wouldn't necessarily be a flogging ride. Like, what the hell is this? Like, that's not the training program. And to maximize the amount of fun that you're having while training, you kind of want to do those rides, because that's what we're doing it. That's part of the reason that we're doing this, is like, is to have fun doing it. So, the way I set up my training programs was like, I knew like, okay, Monday night beaches, like this is going to work. And I'll, and I basically have stuff set up where it's like Saturday is this with this group of people, and Sunday is this, so that I'm ready for this. And it all comes together nicely if you have enough social rides and things like that to make it work.
In some respects too, I mean, when you think about like the types of training that we're doing today and you kind of rewind and go back, 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it is, a lot of the stuff wasn't being done back then. Not to say that it wasn't being done exactly, but they'll come out with some new training philosophies and methods, and so it would be sometimes nice to work with a coach who's maybe tried some of these things and kind of knows the science behind that, to know if it's going to be something that's going to be applicable to you and whatnot. But I'm also of the same mindset. Like, I don't want to go out and chase around all of these fads, these fad training, diets.
I mean, my plans have sort of 2 or 3 specific goals, depending on what energy systems you're trying to activate or make adaptations to. But I'm not somebody who says, Monday 4x10 FTP, Tuesday 6x3 minutes VO2. I think there's value in having every workout work towards those sort of small amount of micro goals, but add in variety, make it interesting, so it's something you can stick with in the long term. You don't get bored with, right?
Well, this is a little taste of the execution component of what we were talking about. We'll get into this a little bit more in a couple of weeks. I don't want to go too deep into it.
We go way off subject.
Specifically to your question about winter prep, though, is the idea of base training in the winter, and this off season is a great time to be specific about your training.
Sure.
Things get more complicated if you're in the middle of, if you're racing every week like Lance, it's hard to fit in training with the racing.
You're racing so much that you're not training.
Yes.
Right. I mean, the training is the racing, and that's, you have that in the periodization, you have that race season, and it's completely different. But
and there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and I know personal people that listen to this podcast that just, they don't want to race. They don't want to pin on a number. That's not their cup of tea. That same person is still going to benefit from some coaching, because a lot of those people will go do an event. They will go do like a STP or Reach the Beach. Those are a couple big rides around here that are not races, that they want to go and they want to do well, or they want to like have a respectable time, or they want to just not die while they're out there doing it. So having a coach to get prepped and ready for something like that is definitely something that's advisable. So everybody can benefit from a coach, and you're going to learn a lot of stuff that you can apply towards your training. And if you do the work during the off season or the winter time, you're going to roll into spring feeling pretty good about yourself, as opposed to like, that's the time that you're dusting off the cobwebs. That's the time that you're going to start trying to get some of your fitness back. And then the next thing you know, you finally are starting to feel good. And guess what? It's like the end of July, beginning of August, and you've got maybe a couple weeks to ride. So maybe consider doing something this off season that would change that paradigm and let you come out to, your riding season in the springtime and have a better experience. So
absolutely. I mean, when it's wet, when it's dark, when it's cold, that's the hardest time to motivate to be on the bike. Mm-hmm. So if you have a goal, a specific goal, whether it's a subjective goal or a goal for a race or whatever, that helps. I mean, that's a do, right? Going back to your theme here, that's do have a goal somewhere in the future and use that as motivation when you need it.
Gotcha.
Get out on your bike because you're doing it for something.
Gotcha. All right. A couple other things to add to that. We said consider starting a training program here pretty soon. Get yourself set up, do your research, go out there and find what you think is going to be the best for you personally and what's going to work with your budget. The next thing is consider getting into some strength training. Take a look at your local gyms to see if there's any kind of deal going on that you can get maybe a block of time for a better price. If going to a gym's not your cup of tea, maybe start considering getting the little things that you need here and there at your home so that you can have a strength training program that you can do at home. What else we got here? We got set some goals. Got to set some goals, because if not, you're just like a ship at sea without a rudder. You're just going to be going in circles and floating around wherever the wind blows you. So have some goals. Another thing is consider setting yourself up with some sort of a reward towards the end of your off-season training, your winter training, like a trip or a vacation or a training camp that can give you reason to train. Like for us, when we go to training camp, we always say that we're training for training camp. Like it's kind of like the running joke. Usually you go show up at training camp to try and get your fitness, but for us, it's like you better have done some of the work, because these are some long days. It's going to be a big week, and if you're not prepped and ready to go, you're going to get left behind. It's unfortunate, but
Lance and I specifically went on pre-training camp last year.
But putting something like that, especially if you live in this kind of an area where we do have the crappy winters, it's not all crap, but definitely there's lots of rainy days. Having that time in late January or early February, or any time in those 2 months, to be able to leave and go ride somewhere where you can just put your kit on and you're not putting on multiple layers, and you don't have to ride with the fenders on, and you can go out there and just kind of enjoy yourself. That is such a big payoff at the end of that. Just being able to, we get used to riding in 40 degrees, 42 degrees and raining all of the time. When you get out of town and you go somewhere where it's like 75 to 82 and it's bright blue sunny skies, and it's just very, very peaceful, and just that warmth on your back. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That is such a big payoff, and it puts a big smile on your face, and it gets you re-energized. And no joke, psychologically, that definitely raises you up, and you get that vitamin D rush. It's a good thing. So put something on your calendar for that time of the year to get away, go have fun. And if you can't, just really take advantage of those nice days. Make those, pay attention to the forecast. If it's going to be a nice day, get out there and soak up as much of that sun as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So, what else do I got on that front of things? I think those are it. I've got one last thing. And this is the one thing that none of us are looking forward to, riding on the trainer. Do you guys have any tips or things that you want to do to get prepared for riding on the trainer for the next 6 months?
Ooh.
First and foremost, I highly recommend that before you go from that whole hey, I'm riding 7, 8, 10, 15 hours a week outside, and all of a sudden the rain starts coming down, I'm going to start be doing 8, 10, 12 hours on the trainer. That's going to take a toll on your body, because it is not the same riding experience. You lose a lot of that lateral movement. The bike is going to be a little bit more locked in. And yes, there are certain devices that will help mitigate some of that, but still, like, do you notice a difference when you go for like an hour and a half bike ride outside and you get off the bike, you feel fine, and then you do an hour and a half ride on a trainer and you get off and you're walking around your house going, oh my God, I feel like I just aged 15 years.
Because you're locked into one position
It
like the
beats
whole
your
time.
back. It beats your back up. It beats your shoulders up, and you're just in this static position. So make sure that you're changing your position. Make sure that maybe you're sprinkling in a trainer ride here and there when it is a crappy day, so that your body can start to acclimate to getting back on that.
And get used to the idea that the power numbers, right, are going to be different on the trainer.
100%,
so
yeah.
You go and do a Z2 ride on your trainer and you think, I'm just going to hold it at 220 for an hour.
You got to back it off 10%.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's going to be about a 10%
it's a
difference.
full-on workworkout to maintain that on a trainer, whereas
100%.
whereas out on the road, that same pace would be conversational.
Sure.
So.
A few other things. Find yourself an online community too. There's a lot of online communities out there.
That's
like
true. ODZ.
or Justin
But
Wagner. When was the last time we talked to Justin
Oh,
Wagner?
we need to have him back on the podcast. He's awesome.
Justin
He's
Wagner,
one-
do you still listen? Text me. Say hi.
So I 100% agree, but Dialed has a winter ride that we do, and it's open to everyone.
Yeah, we actually do
There's
a couple of them. I host the Tuesday night one, and other friends and whatnot will host them on the weekends, and then David Barner will do the Thursday night ride too. So it ends up being like 3 days a week where you can choose the rides. We generally try and ride outside on the weekends, but if it's really crappy weather, we've always got something that's scheduled on there. And sometimes it's stupid, like, hey, let's do a century on our trainers this weekend, and get on there and sweat.
Bold move.
But
Gotta
find
have
yourself
some
a good community on there.
Good cyclocross to watch.
Do you guys
That's
do?
what you did last year.
Do you guys do any of the online racing stuff on Zwift?
I do not.
Yeah.
But we have teammates that do it all winter long,
Yeah.
and they come out pretty popping, ready to go
Sure.
in March because you've got some like built-in intensity. But
I personally have never done it, but I could see some value there. Not early in the season, but when you start to get to a point of the winter training season where you need to start sharpening some things, I think putting that in there would be a
couple of my guys do it every week.
Yeah.
Chris Mann, he's really big into it. And
yeah, it just
helps.
changes your mindset, your philosophy of getting on there, and it makes the time go by faster. And when you ride with a group of people too, like our Tuesday night ride is fantastic. As fantastic as a trainer ride can be, but we're all talking to each other on Discord, so you're able to catch up with your buddies. You can see everybody. Yeah. There's usually hot sections in there that we're going to beat each other up. And no joke, like an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute ride with us, it feels like it's half that. Versus if you go do that by yourself, oh my gosh, that feels like you're on the trainer all freaking day. And like, when can this end? It's just got to end now. I'm dying right now. Get me off this thing. So that's something to consider there.
I've been on a few actual in real life dialed training rides, and I don't even want to think about what it's like on the trainer.
Have you never joined
dialed training pace?
There's some spicy spots, but it's fun.
Yeah,
it is fun.
You
It's usually pretty mellow until the spicy section.
Until it's not.
We do encourage people just to stay with your group because you're still able to talk to them. It's not like in real life where if you get dropped, you're just by yourself.
Yeah.
You can still talk to everybody. Sometimes it's nice to stay there. And if your fitness isn't the same as everybody else, or if your name's Lance Hepper, you can just weight dope and you just put your weight down and then you can just kind of
I weigh 75 pounds.
Anyway, so find that community and make that a fun thing for you. Anything else? Oh, just make sure your trainer whole setup is dialed into. Make sure that, like, before you get going on this, make sure all of your firmwares are up to date for your devices, for your apps and all that other stuff. Because the last
prices on trainers are dropping through the floor.
They just did.
Like $300.
Wahoo just dropped
discounted.
the price on all of their stuff, and it's on sale for $300. But I think I can say this. I think that's just the new MSRP, boys. I think, pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, and I don't know if this is just for that current stuff, and maybe I don't know if there's new stuff coming out. I would be quiet on this, just like Matt was talking about last week. But if there's new stuff coming out and they're just trying to move product, that very well could be the case.
Well,
but
Zwift themselves have really disrupted the marketplace as well, and the trainers, would you not say, with that?
A little bit, yeah. They're working pretty hand in glove with Wahoo on a lot of that stuff.
Weirdly.
Yeah, they hated. Well, they used to like each other, then they hated each other, and now they love each other.
Zwift couldn't buy Wahoo. They're both too medium in size to like purchase each other, right?
Who do you think's more valuable?
That, I mean, I would think Wahoo software is software. It's sometimes highly speculative or whatever on like value of things like that. So my guess is like Zwift probably has more debt and things like that than a company like Wahoo. We know that Wahoo was having major financial problems until the previous owner rebought the company, and now they're pretty good.
Yep.
So at that point, yeah, Zwift could have picked them up potentially, but now at this point, I think that they're in this weird middle ground place. I don't know.
Yeah.
We should look that up. Someone smart has already Googled it for us.
Yeah, just make sure your trainer setup's all ready to rock and roll. Make sure you've got a good fan. It doesn't have to be the expensive $200 headwind fan from Wahoo, which is actually quite spectacular, but you could get away with just a cheap $30 box fan from Home Depot, and then you can actually get some like little wireless things that you can put in your plugs and push buttons and turn the fan on and off, because the last thing you want to do is get on a trainer and be cold and have the fan blowing on you totally high, and you're like, oh, this is too cold, and then you don't want to have to stop and turn it off, or have to like stop and turn it on.
Or
like,
if you're doing a dial ride, get dropped because you stopped to turn the fan on.
Correct.
Damn it, guys! I thought we were taking it easy.
Yeah. And then make sure that you've got like, something to take into consideration, all the sweat that's going to come off. So just all the little things. Make sure you got a nice little setup that you're going to feel inclined to want to go and use. So if you've got a space that's dedicated, that's set up, you're more likely to use that as opposed to the alternative. And again, if you've got a trainer, maybe if you've got your good road bike, maybe your bike can live on there. But if you have like a crappy bike, or you can even go buy a really cheap bike in that, basically has your fit and your style. It could be like a crappy aluminum or steel or whatever, but as long as the geometry is right, that could be a bike that just lives on the trainer, so you don't have to be moving things back around. So whatever you can do to move obstacles out of the way so that you can just go jump on that thing and get your ride done, I think that makes people much more inclined to want to go and do that. And that's one of the benefits of riding on a trainer too, is like, if I wanted to, I could be on the bike and riding in 3 or 4 minutes. Put your kit on or whatever you're wearing and run down, jump on, fire up Zwift, and off you go. So are you guys going to be on Zwift this year? Everybody riding Zwift?
Yeah.
For sure.
No, my whoosh.
I'm going to try to put it off for as long as I can. Yeah. I've had unlike Lance, I did not pause my membership, so I've been paying for it all summer. Hardly using it. But.
Have you guys looked into any new platforms?
No.
I'm curious what happened or what's going on out there. I haven't really looked in a while either. But
I haven't looked in a while. I wonder what's going on.
My whoosh has to be doing some stuff. I mean, they threw some serious money to be on UAE's butts this year, right? So you got to think that they're really doing something there. And for those that are trying to pinch a penny, it's still free, if I'm not mistaken.
Swift's just such a solid platform
yeah.
And they do keep introducing new courses and updates. It's very engaging. And I don't think the experience level is really important, but some people have time and have invested in Swift outside of money. They've just built up there.
How many raindrops you got on there these days? Or sweat drips, the drips. I've got over 20 million drips. What are you supposed to do with those? Are you supposed to go like buy fake stuff for your bike?
Yes,
or something?
you're supposed to buy fake stuff in the fake garage.
Binge your drips.
Yeah.
What can you get for 20 million?
All of it. Buy everything. One of everything.
Might have to look at that one of these days. All right, that's all I got. You guys got anything else?
That's it.
All right,
That's good.
We'll do the don'ts next week and then finish up with the execution of all this fun stuff on the back end of that. All right, let's move on and wrap this bad boy up. One last thing, Matt Legrand, go for it.
I always go first. Dibs on that.
Dibs it is.
I posted my Apple Watch video. I did not get invited down to Cupertino this past week. I know. It was sad because some of my buddies went, and I do really enjoy that trip. But I almost felt relieved when they were, when it was like not going to happen this year. I just have so much stuff. There's so much
busy, dude.
That's a lot of stuff going on. So not going, was not as big a deal. I talked to some other friends that didn't get to go, and they were really upset. And I'm like, dude, we have so much stuff. All of us are so busy. But yeah, they did make their announcement. They announced a new Apple Watch. The Apple Watch Ultra did not get an update, which is why I don't think I got invited. But
Didn't they just come out with a new colorway for it? Like a matte black or something like that? Yeah.
Yep. So I think I'll probably get all of those things and review them and stuff like that at some point.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll see.
Right on. Ian?
Yeah. One thing I did hear, or I do know, like, it's hard to stay motivated through the winter race season, unless you're doing cyclocross, I guess. Race season is a long way away, but one thing that Ober have now got in the pipeline is a new series of road races, a partnership with Washington State Bicycle Racing. So there's going to be 2 or 3 races up north in Washington and a couple down here, including Barton Park Road Race and I think Kings Valley. So, series of 4 races coming up early season next year. So
What's to be a series winner for the whole series too?
What's that?
There'll be series winners.
Yeah.
So,
So it's a little something to.
Is that
look forward
something where you have to
distant
buy
future.
both licenses, or will your Ober license work for WSBA races and vice versa in that 4-race series?
I don't know I don't know the details. I think you would still need at least a day racing license if you haven't got the annual.
Will Ober be officiating the races down this way, and WSBA will do the ones up there? Or
I don't know those details either. I know.
Damn it.
All of the races have to have the same. Obviously, have to have the same categories and age groups and so on. So we got to coordinate that. But
so more to come is what you're saying.
Yeah, more to come.
Sweet.
But something maybe.
So for our calendar next year, so far road racing wise, it's Barton Park and Kings Valley, and that's it. Or are they going to bring some more stuff back?
I haven't. Banana Belt is coming back.
Okay,
for sure.
Is Timo still going to be?
I'm not sure who's putting that on. I don't think it's Timo. I can't say for sure.
Yeah, they resurrected that for 2 years, and then
Yeah.
they tried to do it again this year. Or did they just never put it on there? Or something happened?
didn't
They just
happen this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did they have it on there? Then they canceled it. Is that what that was?
No, it was never
because
on.
last year I know that they were going to do 2, and they did the first one was great, and then they
Yeah.
had the second one, but they canceled it, and I think it was just too deep into the year, and it just gets really busy out there at Hag Lake. So.
yeah.
It's a little early to say that there is a tentative calendar out for the race organizers, for the promoters, but I don't think it's published yet for on the Ober calendar.
Sure.
My intuition says that it'll be incrementally better than this year. I think this year was actual road races. There wasn't that too many, but they made up for it with extended crit series and more gravel races, and it was a good calendar this year, and I think next year's going to be looking a little better.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
My one last thing, we have Corn Cross this Sunday in Boring, Oregon. This is the cyclocross race that's put on by Eric Tonkin, the caveman, from Selwood Cycle and Repair.
This is one of your favorites, isn't it?
It is a fun race. If it's wet, it is freaking miserable because it is part of the course is through a corn maze.
Right. I think it's supposed to be dry. I think
supposed to be dry.
Starts raining earlier next week. Yeah. I don't know.
It's kind of up in the air. It looks like it's not going to be bad. Okay. So this is a great race. They have a great kids cross separate little course this year as well. It's at a farm. It's right next to Ian's house. So Ian better show up and come throw down with us. Other than that, Corn Cross this Sunday.
Sweet. My one last thing is as soon as I get through this weekend, I think on Monday, I'm going to start my apology tour. If you've sent me a message in the last 2 weeks and I haven't got back to you, I'm sorry. I've been really crazy, stupid busy. And if you look at my phone, it's almost comical how many little red dots on there. So I'm going to start playing the whole red dot whack-a-mole and try to get that stuff all worked down to hopefully back to par. We've been working on so many things, but me personally, I've got some big projects where I just kind of had to set the phone aside and not be, ever present for everybody, which has not been all that great over the last year to begin with. But like our new website is just about done. I mean, it's been launched. It's just been like a lot of refining and fixing things on the back end. I think we've added, in the last month, probably 300 or 400 or 500 new products to the website, which is all stuff that we're carrying, which is really good. So it's been a lot of work there trying to get that optimized and trying to get everything flowing a lot nicer. Our old website was okay. The new one is way better, and it's just going to continue to get better with time. For the lab, we're actually in the process of starting to I don't want to say negotiate, but get everything finalized so that we can move into our new space, because we outgrew our current space, and we just I don't think we can squeeze another bike or person into the lab down there if people are bringing bikes in for service, which is fantastic. We love that. But it's one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get through all this? So I'm personally like running bikes back and forth and like storing stuff off location and bringing it back and just doing our best to make use of the space that we got. We've optimized just about every square inch we got there. So it's time to do something new. We've got new team things that we're working on. The juniors program is going to see like a really big, I don't want to say upgrade, but we're going to like try and change some dynamics there to make it an even better juniors experience. So that stuff's all things that we're working on right now, and just a bunch of things. And then there's a bunch of things that I still need to be doing, and Lance knows what I'm talking about, but we're going to get there. But anyway, long story short, like the amount of little red bubbles and the high numbers of things that I need to do in each one of those red bubbles is kind of crazy. So yeah, sorry if I haven't got back to you, but I will. That's it. Boys, anything else?
That's it.
Cool.
I'm done.
All right. We will be back next week with another one of these. Thank you for listening. And until then, bye for now.
The winter is coming.
Jij bent een klootzak.
La 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 la.